The council chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It stretched so far that he could barely see the other end. The ceiling was made of crystal that showed the stars beyond. 847 different alien species had representatives here. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living metal. A few floated in tanks of colored gas. Adjusted his simple black suit and checked his briefcase. His aide stood beside him. She was young but very smart. Her job was to watch everything and remember it all. She held a small tablet that connected to Earth's intelligence network. "They're going to declare war," whispered. "The signals are all there." Nodded. He had expected this for months. The Empire was old and powerful. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They did not like it when anyone said no to them, and humanity had said no. 3 months ago, the Empire sent Earth a document called the Subjugation Edict. It demanded that humanity surrender control of their government. It demanded that Earth give the Empire 70% of all resources. It demanded that humans accept law above their own. The document gave Earth 30 days to comply. Earth's answer had been simple and polite: "No, thank you." Emperor entered the chamber. He was ancient, even for his species. His skin looked like old leather, and his 4 eyes glowed with a cold light. Behind him walked High Chancellor, who had negotiated the edict, had told the other diplomats that humans were primitive and stupid. He said they would surrender within a week of seeing the Empire's military power. The Emperor sat on his throne, which floated above the council floor. His voice boomed through the chamber without any microphone. "We gather to address a matter of disobedience," Emperor said. "The species known as humanity has rejected the Subjugation Edict. They have refused to join the Empire peacefully." Murmurs filled the chamber. Notice that most species seemed excited. Some were making sounds that might have been laughter. Humans had only made official first contact with the galactic community 20 years ago. They had faster-than-light ships, but their technology seemed basic compared to Empire standards. Most species saw them as children playing at being adults. "I have been emperor for 3,000 years, continued. "In that time I have never known defeat. I have brought 700 species into the Empire. Some joined willingly. Others required persuasion, but all eventually understood that resistance is futile." High Chancellor stepped forward. His expression showed disgust. "Humanity controls a single star system. They have a population of only 12 billion. Their military consists of vessels that would be outdated by Empire standards from 2 centuries ago, and yet they dare to refuse us." More sounds of approval from the assembled aliens. Remained still. Fingers moved quietly across her tablet, sending encrypted messages back to Earth. "Therefore," Emperor declared, "I invoke the right of conquest. As of this moment, a state of war exists between the Empire and humanity. We will bring them into the Empire by force. Their world will be conquered. Their resources will be seized. Their people will learn to obey." The chamber erupted with noise. Species were standing, making various sounds of approval. Some banged appendages against their seats. Others activated light displays. It was a celebration. Reached into his briefcase. He pulled out a newspaper. It was an actual physical newspaper, printed on real paper. Such things were rare now that everything was digital but liked the feel of them. He unfolded it carefully and began to read. The sounds of celebration slowly died down. One by one, the species in the chamber noticed what the human envoy was doing. Confusion spread through the room. Some species had never seen paper before. Others could not understand why someone would read at a time like this. Emperor stared down at "Human," he said, and his voice was very cold now. "Do you understand what has just occurred? We have declared war on your species." Looked up from his newspaper. His face was calm, almost pleasant. "Yes, your Imperial Majesty, I heard." "And you respond by reading?" High Chancellor demanded. "Have you lost your mind? Do you not understand the power of the Empire? We have warships that could turn your planet to dust. We have armies that have conquered thousands of worlds. And you sit there reading. Folded the newspaper and set it on his lap. He looked at the Emperor with steady eyes. I apologize, Your Imperial Majesty, but you see, by the time your declaration reached us through proper diplomatic channels, it became yesterday's news. I was simply catching up on things I had already read about. The chamber went completely silent. Even the species that did not understand human expressions could sense something strange in its tone. He was not afraid. He was not angry. He was calm. Perfectly calm. You knew we would declare war? Asked. Of course, said. Your empire has a very predictable pattern. When a species refuses subjugation, you wait exactly 90 days and then declare war. You always send a fleet that you think is overwhelming for the target's capability. You make a public spectacle of the declaration to discourage others from refusing in the future. We have been tracking your diplomatic patterns for quite some time. Emperor leaned forward on his throne. For the first time in centuries, something like curiosity crossed his face. And knowing this, you still refused. Smiled, it was a small smile, but it was genuine. Your Imperial Majesty, humanity has a saying, it goes, do not mistake our patience for weakness or our politeness for fear. We refused because we do not wish to be part of your empire. We have no interest in conquest. We have no interest in subjugation. We simply want to live in peace. Then you will have war, said. Yes, agreed. It appears we will. If you'll excuse me, I should return to Earth now. I imagine I will be needed for the coordination efforts. He stood up, picking up his newspaper and briefcase, gathered her tablet and followed him. They walked toward the exit. Every alien eye in the chamber watched them go. The two humans moved through the massive doors without looking back. As the doors closed behind them, High Chancellor laughed. Did you see that? They are insane. They have no idea what is coming for them. But Emperor did not laugh. He sat very still on his throne, watching the door where the humans had disappeared. Something about that smile bothered him, something about the calm in the humans' eyes. Send the 7th Fleet, he ordered. I want Earth surrounded within 10 days, and I want full intelligence reports on human military capability. Something does not feel right about this. In the corridor outside, and walked quickly toward their ship, looked at her superior with concern. Do you think they bought it? She asked. Bought what? Replied. The calm diplomat act, the confidence. Stopped walking and looked at her. I was not acting. Everything I said in there was true. They made a predictable choice. We prepared for this exact scenario, and now we will respond accordingly. Sir, said quietly, they have no idea what is coming, do they? Smiled again, that same small smile. No, they really don't. Contact Admiral Minu. Tell him to activate Protocol Crimson Sky. The Empire has made its choice. Now we make ours. They continued walking toward their ship, leaving behind a council chamber full of species that thought they knew everything about humanity. They would soon learn otherwise. The galaxy was about to discover why patience should never be mistaken for weakness. Admiral Minu stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station Olympus. Through the large window, he could see Earth turning slowly below. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from here. It looked like it had always looked, unchanged for millions of years. But Minu knew that peace was about to be tested. Admiral, we have received the activation code from Envoy, his communications officer reported. Protocol Crimson Sky is authorized. Minu nodded slowly. He had been waiting for this moment. The protocol had been designed 3 years ago when Earth's intelligence network first identified the Empire as a potential threat. Everything that happened today had been planned for. Every move had been calculated. Activate the protocol, Minu ordered. Bring all hidden assets online. Send the signal to the fleet. Across the solar system, things began to wake up. Defense platforms that had been floating silent in the asteroid belt powered up their weapons. Ships that had been hiding in the shadows of Jupiter's moons fired up their engines. Satellites that looked like space debris suddenly revealed themselves to be advanced sensor arrays. In less than 5 minutes, Earth's true defensive capability became visible. The bridge crew worked efficiently. There was no panic, no fear. They had trained for this. Every person on the station knew exactly what to do. Minu watched his tactical display as more and more friendly signals appeared on the screen. "Sir, we have 247 defense platforms online," the tactical officer reported. 316 ships reporting ready status. All stealth fields dropping on your command. "Hold the stealth fields for now," Minu said. "Let them get closer. I want them confident." 6 days earlier, the 7th Fleet had departed from their staging area near the Outer Rim. It was a massive force by Empire standards. 12 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, and over 200 support vessels. Fleet commander, who led the fleet, had told his officers that this mission would be over in a day. One show of force, and the humans would surrender. But did not know that humanity had been tracking his fleet since the moment it left port. He did not know that human intelligence agents had detailed specifications of every ship in his fleet. He did not know that his communications were being monitored, his strategy analyzed, his every move predicted. Captain sat in the pilot seat of the Silent Thunder, a small stealth frigate that floated in the darkness between stars. Her ship was completely invisible to sensors. It used technology that the Empire had never seen before. Quantum field manipulation that bent light and energy around the ship like water flowing around a stone. "Captain, the fleet is approaching the outer marker," her sensor officer said. "They will reach Earth's detection range in 4 hours, at least by their understanding of our detection range." Smiled. The thought human sensors could only see a few million kilometers. They had no idea that Earth's detection network stretched across the entire solar system and beyond. Human sensors had been watching the 7th Fleet for days. "Helm, take us to intercept position Delta 7, ordered. "Weapons, prepare the disruptor package. We are going to give Fleet Commander a very bad day." The Silent Thunder moved like a ghost through space. It approached the fleet from below, where their sensors were weakest. Had studied tactics for 2 years. She knew how they positioned their ships. She knew where they expected threats to come from, and she knew exactly where to hit them. "We are in position, Captain," the helm reported. "Fire," said calmly. The Silent Thunder released a package of small devices that spread out toward the fleet. They were not weapons in the traditional sense. They did not explode or shoot beams. Instead, they attached themselves to ships and began to emit a specific frequency of electromagnetic energy. Within 30 seconds, every computer system in the 7th Fleet went dead. Power systems shut down. Life support switched to emergency backup. Weapons became useless. Communications stopped working. 12 dreadnoughts and all their support vessels became nothing more than floating metal shells. On board his flagship, Fleet Commander stared in horror at his dark control screens. Emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows across the bridge. His officers were shouting, trying to understand what had happened. "Reports," demanded. "All systems are down, Commander," his second officer said. "Main power is offline. Backup power is being drained by some kind of external field. We cannot restart anything. We are dead in space." "What about the rest of the fleet?" "All ships report the same problem, sir. The entire fleet is disabled." Felt something he had never felt in 20 years of military service. Fear, real fear. Who did this? Where did the attack come from? Before anyone could answer, the communication system somehow came back to life. A voice spoke in perfect language. It was a female human voice, calm and professional. "Fleet Commander, this is Captain of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been disabled by non-lethal electronic warfare. Your life support systems have been left functional. You have approximately 72 hours of air and food. A rescue fleet from your empire should reach you in about 60 hours if they leave immediately. Grab the communication panel. Where are you? Show yourself. That would not be wise, Commander, but I can tell you that you are very lucky. My orders were to disable your fleet, not destroy it. Admiral Minu believes in giving clear warnings before escalating to lethal force. Consider this your warning. Warning, shouted. You dare attack the Empire and call it a warning? Yes, replied simply. And here is the rest of the warning. Earth's true military capability is approximately 300 years ahead of what your intelligence reports claim. Your empire sent this fleet believing humans were primitive and weak. That was a mistake. We are recording this message and will transmit it to your high command. I suggest you share it with Emperor. The communication channel switched to broadcast mode. A new voice came through. This was Admiral Minu speaking from Earth orbit. To the Empire, this is Admiral Minu of Earth's Defense Command. You have declared war on humanity. We did not want this war. We do not enjoy war, but we are very, very good at it. The 7th Fleet has been disabled without a single casualty on either side. This demonstrates our capability and our restraint. We ask you to reconsider this war, withdraw your forces, return to negotiations. There is no shame in choosing peace over pointless destruction. Minu paused, letting his words sink in. However, if you choose to continue this war, understand that we will respond with increasing force. The next fleet you send will not be disabled. It will be destroyed. We are giving you this one chance. Use it wisely. This is our only warning. The transmission ended. Silence filled the flagship's bridge, looked around at his officers. They all looked shocked. Their mighty fleet, pride of the Empire, had been reduced to helpless debris by an enemy they could not even see. Get a message drone out, ordered quietly. Use the emergency launcher. Send everything to high command. All sensor data, all recordings. They need to know what happened here. 3 hours later, the message drone reached space and transmitted its data to Imperial High Command. Military analysts reviewed the recordings again and again, trying to understand what they were seeing. The technology that had disabled the fleet was unknown. The stealth capability of the human ship was impossible by Empire standards. High Chancellor watched the recordings with growing anger. This is a trick, he insisted. They must have stolen this technology from somewhere. Humans are barely 20 years into space. They cannot have developed this on their own. But Emperor was not so sure. He sat in his private chamber, watching the recording of Admiral Minu's warning. The human's face was calm and serious. There was no boasting, no threats, just a simple statement of fact. And that was what worried the Emperor the most. Send the 3rd Fleet, ordered, and the 5th Fleet as well. If the humans want a war, we will give them one they cannot win. But tell the fleet commanders to be careful. Something is very wrong here. Back on Earth, Admiral Minu received reports that the Empire was sending 2 more fleets. He had expected this. The Empire would not back down from one defeat. They needed to learn a harder lesson. Alert all defense stations, Minu ordered. They are escalating. We escalate in response. Next time we will not be so gentle. Inform all civilian populations to remain calm. The war has begun, but Earth is safe. We will not allow any hostile force to reach our home. Captain and the Silent Thunder returned to their hidden base on one of Saturn's moons. Her crew was tired but satisfied. They had done their job perfectly. Not a single shot had been fired, not a single life had been lost. It was the kind of victory that humanity preferred. Clean, efficient, and leaving room for the enemy to reconsider. But knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would send more ships. They would send bigger weapons. They would keep coming until they either won or learned the truth about humanity. And the truth was something the galaxy was not ready to understand. Humanity had not been in space for just 20 years. That was a lie, a careful deception. Humans had been exploring the stars for much longer. They had been preparing for this moment. And now that moment had arrived, ready or not. Intelligence Director had served the Empire for 40 years. He had analyzed hundreds of species before they joined the Empire. He had studied their weaknesses, their technologies, their secrets. He had never been wrong about a species. Never, until now. He sat in his office deep inside Imperial Intelligence Headquarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing data about humanity. None of it made sense. The pieces did not fit together. It was like looking at a puzzle where someone had mixed pieces from different boxes. His assistant, a young analyst named, entered the office carrying more data files. Director, we have completed analysis of the technology used against the 7th Fleet. Our scientists cannot explain it. The electromagnetic disruption field operates on principles we do not understand. Rubbed his eyes. He had not slept in 2 days. What about the stealth technology? Even more mysterious, sir. Our best theory is that it uses quantum manipulation to become invisible. But we abandoned that research path 300 years ago because it was impossible with current technology. Somehow the humans have made it work. How long have humans had faster-than-light travel? Asked. Checked his data pad. According to official first contact records, they achieved it 23 years ago. A human ship appeared near one of our trade stations and requested diplomatic relations. Show me everything about that first contact, ordered. I want to review every detail. For the next 6 hours, studied the records. He watched the video of the first human ship arriving. It was called the Pathfinder, and it looked basic compared to Empire vessels. The humans on board had seemed excited and nervous, like children meeting adults for the first time. They had asked many questions about how to join the galactic community. They had seemed innocent, but now wondered if it had all been an act. He pulled up records of human colonies in the galaxy. According to official records, humans had established 3 small colonies in the past 20 years. All of them were in systems far from Empire space. All of them were registered through proper diplomatic channels. Activated a different search program. This one looked for unregistered settlements, unauthorized mining operations, and unexplained energy signatures. He limited the search to the past 50 years and looked for anything that might be human in origin. The results shocked him. There were 17 unregistered settlements in systems that were supposed to be empty. There were mining operations on asteroids that had no official owners. There were energy signatures that matched human technology in places humans were not supposed to be. And all of this dated back decades before official first contact. Said quietly, "Get me everything you can find about human history, not what they told us. What actually happened. I want to know about their wars, their technology development, everything. And I want it now." On Mars, deep inside a mountain that had been hollowed out and reinforced, Doctor walked through the research facility that officially did not exist. The facility was enormous, stretching for kilometers underground. It housed the most advanced technology that humanity had ever developed, technology that the galaxy had never seen. She stopped in front of a window that looked into a massive chamber. Inside the chamber floated a ship that seemed to shimmer and bend light around it. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. This was the Aurora, the first ship built using quantum fold technology. It could cross distances in seconds that would take conventional faster-than-light drives days to travel. Doctor, one of her assistants, called. "We have received orders from Earth Command. They want to know if Project Daybreak is ready for deployment." Smiled. Project Daybreak. The weapon that could end the war in minutes if needed. But it was also the weapon they hoped they would never have to use, because using it would reveal just how far ahead humanity really was. "Tell them it is ready," said, "but also tell them that I hope we never need it. The point is not to show off our power. The point is to convince the Empire to choose peace." Far from Mars, on the edge of space, and his special operations team finished setting charges on a research station. The station was supposed to be secret, hidden in an asteroid field, but human intelligence had known about it for 3 years. They knew everything they were researching here. They knew how many people worked at the station. They knew the security protocols. His team had infiltrated the station without triggering a single alarm. They had placed sensors throughout the facility that would transmit all research data back to Earth. They had left clear evidence of their presence but had not hurt anyone or destroyed anything important. This was a message, a demonstration. "Team, we are done here," said through his helmet communicator. "Exfiltration in 2 minutes, nice and quiet." The team left the same way they came in, through a waste disposal port that sensors barely monitored. Their small stealth ship picked them up and vanished into the darkness. 2 hours later, the station's security would discover the evidence left behind. They would know that humans had been there. They would know that their secret station was not secret anymore. Back at Imperial Intelligence, finally received the historical data on humanity. What he read made his blood run cold. The file started with a warning in bold letters: significant DISCREPANCISDETCTD. Recommend immediate review. He began reading. Earth's history was violent, very violent. In the past 500 years, humanity had fought 3 wars that nearly destroyed them. The first was against artificial intelligence that had turned hostile. Humanity had won, but billions had died. The second was against biological weapons that had been designed to be unstoppable. Humanity had survived by developing advanced medical technology. The third had been against themselves, a nuclear war that had their planet. Each time, humanity had come back stronger. They had learned from their mistakes. They had developed new technologies to prevent the same disasters from happening again. And through it all, they had never stopped looking at the stars. Found records of something called the Pioneer Initiative. It had started 140 years ago, long before official first contact. Earth had sent out secret missions to explore nearby star systems. They had done it quietly, without announcing it to anyone. They had been preparing for the day when they would meet other species. "They have been lying to us from the start," whispered. "They made us think they were children just learning to walk in space, but they have been here all along, watching, learning, preparing." He called an emergency meeting with the High Council. Emperor, High Chancellor, and the top military commanders gathered to hear his report, presented everything he had found. "Your Imperial Majesty," concluded, "we have made a terrible mistake. Humanity is not a primitive species. They are a survivor species. They have faced extinction multiple times and overcome it. They have technology that we cannot explain. They have been in space far longer than we believed. And most importantly, they have been studying us while we ignored them." High Chancellor slammed his fist on the table. "This is impossible. How could we not know? Our intelligence network is the best in the galaxy." "It is the best when we are looking," replied. "But we were not looking at humanity. We dismissed them as unimportant. That was our mistake." Emperor was silent for a long moment. He thought about the Envoy, calmly reading his newspaper. He thought about the disabled 7th Fleet. He thought about the warning from Admiral Menu. "What is your recommendation, Director?" the Emperor asked. "Withdraw immediately and negotiate," said without hesitation. "We cannot win this war, or if we can win it, the cost will be too high. Every piece of data suggests that humanity is holding back. They could have destroyed the 7th Fleet but chose not to. They are trying to teach us a lesson without humiliating us completely. That is mercy, Your Majesty. Mercy from a species that could destroy us if they wanted to." Stood up angrily. "You are a coward. We are the Empire. We have never lost a war. We will not surrender to these humans just because they have a few technological tricks." "It is not a few tricks," said. "It is systematic superiority across multiple domains. Military, economic, technological. Did you know that humans control over 30% of the galactic economy through shell corporations? They have been building economic power while we thought they were irrelevant. If they wanted to, they could crash our economy tomorrow." The room fell silent. The military commanders looked at each other with growing concern. They had gone into this war thinking it would be easy. Now they were learning the truth. Emperor made his decision. "Send the Third and Fifth Fleets as planned, but tell them to be cautious. Avoid direct engagement if possible. I want more information before we escalate further. And Director, continue your investigation. I want to know everything about humanity. Everything." As the council disbanded, returned to his office, he looked at the reports spread across his desk. Somewhere in all this data was the answer to the real question, not how advanced humanity was, but why they had hidden it for so long. What were they really planning? He pulled up one last file. It was a newspaper article from Earth, translated into language. The article was about diplomatic strategies for dealing with aggressive civilizations. It recommended patience, measured responses, and teaching through demonstration rather than destruction. The article had been written by someone named, the same who was now Earth's diplomatic envoy, the same who had calmly read a newspaper while war was declared on his species. Finally understood. Humanity had planned for this. They had expected the Empire to be aggressive. They had prepared a response that would teach without destroying. They were playing a long game, thinking decades ahead while the Empire thought only of immediate conquest. For the first time in his career, felt afraid of a species he was supposed to be analyzing, because humanity was not just advanced. They were wise, and wisdom combined with power was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Ambassador had always preferred working in the shadows rather than in public council chambers. While dealt with the official diplomacy, handled the unofficial channels, the quiet conversations in dark rooms, the deals that were never written down, the relationships that changed history without anyone noticing. She sat now in a private meeting room on a neutral space station. Across from her sat Prince, the son of Emperor. Was young for only 500 years old. He had a reputation for being more thoughtful than his father, less quick to anger. "Thank you for meeting with me," Ambassador said. "I know this is dangerous for both of us." "Your father declared war on my species," replied calmly. "Danger is relative at this point, but I agreed to meet because I believe you want to understand the truth." Leaned forward. "Is it true, everything in Director's report? Has humanity been deceiving us from the beginning?" Chose her words carefully. "We did not deceive anyone. We simply did not volunteer information that was not asked for. When we made first contact 23 years ago, we asked if there were rules about how advanced we needed to be to join the galactic community. We were told there were no such rules, so we presented ourselves at a level we thought would be non-threatening. We wanted to observe and learn before revealing our full capabilities." "Why?" asked. "Why hide what you are?" "Because we have learned from experience," said. "In Earth's history, when a more advanced civilization meets a less advanced one, the results are usually bad for the weaker party. We did not know how the galaxy would react to us, so we watched and learned. And what we learned confirmed our concerns. The Empire has subjugated hundreds of species. You demand submission, not cooperation." Sat back in his chair, he looked tired. "I have advised my father against this war, but he does not listen. The High Chancellor convinces him that victory is certain." "Victory is not certain," said quietly. "In fact, it is impossible. Would you like to know why?" She placed a data chip on the table between them. "This contains information that Earth's government has authorized me to share with you, not with your father or the Council, just with you, because we believe you might be wise enough to understand what it means." Picked up the chip with a trembling hand. "What is on this?" "The truth about Earth's economy and military capacity, numbers that will terrify you, but also an explanation of why we have been so patient with your father's aggression. Read it carefully, Prince. Then decide what you want to do with that knowledge." 3 days later, the third and fifth armadas reached the outer edges of human-claimed space. The combined force was massive. Over 600 ships, including 30 of the Empire's most powerful dreadnoughts. Fleet commander, who led the combined armada, had explicit orders. Approach Earth but avoid direct engagement until the Emperor gave the order. Gather intelligence. Learn what the humans were capable of. But Admiral Minu had no intention of letting the fleet get that close. He stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Indomitable Will, watching the tactical display. They are moving in the standard pincer formation, his tactical officer reported. 3rd Fleet from Galactic North, 5th Fleet from Galactic South. They plan to converge on Earth in 48 hours. They will never make it that far, Minu said. Communications, send a message to Captain and the Raider squadrons. Execute Operation Locust. Operation Locust was not about destroying the fleet. It was about stopping them from reaching Earth by making it impossible for them to continue. Human ships, small and fast and invisible, began hitting supply convoys. Fuel tankers were disabled. Ammunition carriers were boarded and their contents ejected into space. Food supply ships found their cargo holds mysteriously emptied. They never saw the attacks coming. One moment, a supply convoy was moving normally. The next moment, every ship was dead in space or missing critical supplies. It happened again and again. Within 72 hours, the entire armada was running low on everything they needed to fight. Fleet commander watched in frustration as his supply situation became critical. How are they doing this? He demanded. Our sensors detect nothing, our patrols see nothing, but our supplies keep vanishing. His second officer looked worried. Commander, if we continue at our current pace, we will run out of fuel before we reach Earth. We need to turn back and resupply. The Emperor will have my head if I retreat, said. The Emperor will have all our heads if we drift powerless in space, the second officer replied. But the supply problems were only the beginning. Back on controlled worlds, critical systems were starting to fail. Power plants shut down unexpectedly. Communication networks went dark. Transportation systems malfunctioned. Nothing major at first, just small problems, but the problems kept happening, and they always seemed to happen at the most inconvenient times. On the home world, engineers scrambled to figure out what was wrong. They discovered something horrifying. Their entire infrastructure was built using components purchased from various technology guilds across the galaxy. Those guilds all had one thing in common. They were secretly owned by human shell corporations. And every single component had a built into it, a way to remotely disable or control it. The humans had not activated these yet. They were just demonstrating that they could. The message was clear. We could shut down your entire civilization if we wanted to, but we are choosing not to. One of Earth's most skilled negotiators traveled to neutral worlds to meet with representatives from other species. Many of these species were part of the Empire but not happy about it. They had been conquered or coerced into joining. They had no love for the Empire. Earth offers an alternative, told them. Join us in demanding that the Empire reform. We are not asking you to rebel. We are not asking you to fight. We are simply asking you to stand with us and demand change, fair treatment, equal rights, democratic representation. One by one, species began to listen. The Empire had always seemed too powerful to oppose, but now humanity was proving that the Empire was not invincible. If Earth could fight the Empire to a standstill, maybe others could demand better treatment too. Emperor sat in his throne room, reading reports that got worse every day. His fleets were stranded without supplies. His infrastructure was failing. Member species were talking about reform, and he still had not seen Earth's true military power. This is humiliation, High Chancellor said. They are making us look weak without even fighting. We must strike at Earth directly, show them our full power. And how do you suggest we do that? Asked tiredly. Our fleets cannot reach Earth. Every time we try, they are stopped. Not destroyed, just stopped. It is like trying to punch fog. Send everything, insisted. Every ship we have, they cannot stop all of us. Considered this. It was a desperate plan, but he was running out of options. Very well, assemble the Grand Armada, every available ship. We will attack Earth with overwhelming force, and we will see if these humans can stop that. The order went out. From every corner of the Empire, ships began converging. It would take weeks to assemble them all. But when they were ready, it would be the largest military force the Empire had ever deployed. Over 3,000 ships, enough firepower to destroy a star. Admiral Minu received intelligence about the Grand Armada from multiple sources. Human spies embedded in the Empire. Sensor networks tracking ship movements. Intercepted communications. He called a meeting with Earth's military leadership and who had returned from the Empire. They are going to attack Earth directly, Minu told the assembled group. With everything they have, we need to decide how to respond. Can we stop them? Someone asked. Minu looked at Doctor, who had joined the meeting via secure video link from Mars. She nodded slowly. We can stop them. The swarm around the sun generates more than enough power to run the planetary defense grid at full capacity. We could vaporize their entire fleet before they reach Earth's orbit. But should we? Asked. That is the real question. If we destroy 3,000 ships and kill millions of, we become the monsters they think we are. We prove that might makes right. Then what do you suggest? Minu asked. Thought for a moment. We demonstrate our capability. We show them the defense grid. We let them see what would happen if they attack. And then we offer them one final chance to choose peace. And so, when the Grand Armada finally assembled and began its journey toward Earth, it was met with something unexpected. At the edge of the solar system, a line appeared in space. It was visible to every sensor on every ship. A barrier of pure energy, powered by the sun itself, forming a wall around Earth's entire solar system. They stopped. They analyzed the barrier. Their scientists calculated how much energy would be required to create such a thing. The numbers did not make sense. It was more power than the entire empire could generate, and the humans were using it just for defense. Fleet Commander, now in charge of the Grand Armada, stared at the barrier in disbelief. This is impossible, he whispered. Then every screen on every ship in the Armada lit up with the same message. It was Admiral Minu speaking from Earth. Commander, you are looking at Earth's true defensive capability. That barrier is powered by a swarm that captures energy directly from our sun. If your fleet crosses that barrier, it will be destroyed instantly and completely. Every ship, every person, gone. We have the power to end this war in seconds, but we choose not to. We are recording this message and sending it to Emperor. We ask one final time for peace. Stand down. Go home. Tell your Emperor that humanity does not want war. We want only to be left alone. This is your last warning. The next choice you make will determine if this war ends in peace or tragedy. The message ended. The Grand Armada floated in space, facing the impossible barrier. And far away on the home world, Emperor watched the same message. For the first time in 3,000 years of rule, he felt something he had never felt before. He felt fear. The council chamber looked different now. The lights seemed dimmer. The assembled species were quieter. There was no celebration this time. No sounds of approval. Everyone knew they were witnessing history, but no one was sure what kind of history it would be. Emperor entered slowly. He looked older than he had a month ago. The weight of defeat, even unspoken defeat, had aged him. Behind him walked Prince and High Chancellor, looked angry, his face tight with suppressed rage, looked calm but sad. Stood in the center of the chamber floor, was beside him as always. But this time they were not alone. Admiral Minu stood with them in his military uniform. Doctor had come from Mars. Ambassador had returned from her secret meetings and stood ready to help negotiate whatever came next. A neutral mediator, representative from a species that had never joined the Empire, stepped forward to officiate. Was known across the galaxy for fairness and wisdom. Her species had maintained neutrality for thousands of years. "We are gathered to discuss terms," said. "The Empire has requested negotiations with humanity. Emperor, would you like to speak first?" The Emperor rose from his throne, but he did not descend to the floor. Some pride remained. Humanity has demonstrated military superiority. They have shown technological advancement beyond our understanding. They have proven that continued conflict would be costly for the Empire. We are prepared to discuss terms of peace. "Terms of surrender, you mean?" someone muttered from the assembled species. It was not clear who said it, but many heads nodded. His face darkened, but he said nothing. The truth was obvious to everyone. The Empire had lost, not through battle but through being completely outmatched. The Grand Armada still floated at the edge of Earth's solar system, unable to advance, unwilling to retreat, waiting for orders. Stepped forward. "Your Imperial Majesty, humanity appreciates your willingness to negotiate. We have prepared terms that we believe are fair and reasonable." Laughed bitterly. "Fair, you will demand tribute, territory, control of our government. That is what victors always demand." "No," said simply, "we will not." Silence fell over the chamber, even looked surprised. Activated a holographic display that appeared above the chamber floor. Everyone could see it clearly. It showed a document titled Terms of Peace and Partnership. "First," said, "humanity demands no reparations, no payment for the cost of defending ourselves. We understand that the Empire acted out of a desire to maintain order and control. We do not agree with your methods, but we understand your motivations." Stared at the human envoy with suspicion. "What is the trick? What do you really want?" "Second," continued, ignoring the interruption, "humanity demands no territorial concessions. We do not want empire worlds. We do not want to rule other species. We want only to maintain our independence and help others maintain theirs." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This did not sound like normal peace terms. Victors always demanded something. Always. "Third," said, "humanity requests that the Empire transition from an autocratic empire to a democratic federation. All member species should have representation and voting rights. Laws should be made by elected councils, not by imperial decree. This transition should take place over 10 years with assistance from neutral mediators." Now the chamber erupted in noise. Species that had been conquered by the Empire started talking excitedly. Could this be real? Could they finally have a voice? But the representatives looked horrified. The Empire was their identity. It had existed for 10,000 years. "You ask us to give up everything we are," said quietly. "No," replied. "We ask you to become something better. Your species will still have a place in the new federation. Your history and culture will be respected, but you will share power instead of hoarding it. You will lead through wisdom and cooperation instead of fear and force." Prince stood up. "And if we refuse these terms?" His expression remained calm, but his next words were heavy with meaning. "Then the war continues, and we both know how that war will end. Your Grand Armada is trapped at our border. Your infrastructure can be shut down with a command. Your economy is controlled by interests that answer to Earth. You can refuse our terms, but the cost will be the complete dissolution of the Empire with nothing to replace it. We are offering you a path forward that preserves your dignity and gives your people a future. Refusing is not defiance, it is suicide." Representatives spoke up. "These are unusual terms. I have never seen a victor offer such generous conditions. Ambassador, can you explain why humanity is choosing this path?" Nodded. "May I tell a story?" Gestured for him to continue. "On Earth we have a species of animal called orcas. They are apex predators in the ocean. They are intelligent and powerful. They could dominate through violence, but instead they often teach. When an orca catches prey, sometimes it releases the prey alive, especially when teaching young orcas to hunt. They could kill, but they choose to teach instead. Paused, looking around the chamber. Humanity learned a hard lesson in our history. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times. Wars that killed billions. Weapons that our planet. We survived because, eventually, we learned that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect, not dominate. He gestured to the holographic display. The Empire is strong. Your people have built an impressive civilization, but you have been using your strength wrong. You have been conquering instead of cooperating. We could destroy you for that mistake, but destroying you would teach nothing except fear. Instead, we choose to offer partnership. We choose to show you a better way. Stepped forward and added her voice. During this entire conflict, human forces have not killed a single soldier. Not one. We disabled ships. We disrupted supply lines. We demonstrated capability, but we never chose to kill. That was deliberate. We wanted you to understand that we are not your enemy. Your way of thinking is the enemy. Admiral Minu spoke next. I want to show you something that your military analysts have already seen, but your people do not know. A new holographic image appeared. It showed the weapons that Doctor's facility on Mars had developed. Antimatter bombs that could destroy planets. Ships that could cross the galaxy in hours. Weapons that could turn stars into supernovas. We have had these weapons for 80 years, Minu said. 80 years. We could have announced our presence to the galaxy as conquerors. We could have built an empire larger than yours. Instead, we chose to wait, to watch, to learn. And when we finally made contact, we came as students, not masters, because power is meaningless without wisdom. Doctor stood and addressed the chamber. Many of you use technology that was sold to you by various guilds and corporations. What you do not know is that much of that technology was designed by human scientists and sold through intermediaries. We could have sabotaged it. We could have built in weapons. Instead, we built in safety features. Protection against hacking, efficiency improvements. We have been helping you without you knowing it. The species in the chamber looked at each other in confusion and wonder. Everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. These were not primitive newcomers to the galaxy. They were guardians who had been watching over everyone without asking for recognition. Prince stood again. Father, I have studied the data that Ambassador shared with me. Everything they are saying is true. We have 2 choices. Accept these terms and transform the Empire into something that can survive the next 1,000 years. Or refuse and watch everything our ancestors built crumble into nothing. I recommend we accept. High Chancellor rose to object, but Emperor raised a hand to silence him. The Emperor descended from his throne for the first time. He walked slowly to the chamber floor and stood before. You could have humiliated us, said. You could have destroyed us. You could have taken everything. Why do you show us mercy? Met the Emperor's eyes. Because someone showed us mercy once. Long ago, when humanity was younger and more foolish, we made mistakes. We created weapons we could not control. We waged wars that nearly ended us. And we survived because, at critical moments, people chose mercy over vengeance. Leaders chose wisdom over pride. I am here today because my ancestors were given second chances. Now I offer the same to you. Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. I accept your terms. The Empire will transition to a federation. All species will have representation. We will build something new together. The chamber erupted in sound. Some species cheered. Others sat in shocked silence. The Empire, which had seemed eternal and unchangeable, was transforming before everyone's eyes. The next days were busy with lawyers and diplomats working out the details. Treaties were written and signed. Plans were made for elections and constitutional conventions. Human advisors offered to help with the transition, but made it clear that the new federation had to be built by its own people, not imposed by outsiders. Admiral Minu and Fleet Commander, who had been his opponent, met privately, had been released from custody, and offered a position helping to reform the military. "You could have destroyed my fleet at the barrier," said. "Why did you just stop us?" Minyu smiled. "Because we did not fight to dominate. We fought to teach. Your fleet going home alive teaches a better lesson than your fleet being destroyed. It teaches that strength can be used for protection instead of conquest." 6 months after the peace treaty was signed, returned to Earth. He took a month off from diplomatic duties. He stayed in his small apartment and did normal things. He cooked meals. He read books. He watched old movies. And every morning he read the newspaper. One morning called him. "Sir, we have a problem. The Empire in the far spiral arm has declared war on one of their neighboring species. They are demanding subjugation. It is starting to sound familiar." Sighed, he had been expecting this. The galaxy had seen what happened to the Empire. Some would learn the lesson. Others would need to be taught. "Send a diplomatic envoy," said. "Someone who has read our history and understands our philosophy. Give them a briefcase and a newspaper, the same as I had. Let us hope the Empire is wiser than the were." "And if they are not?" asked. "Then we teach them too," replied. "As many times as necessary, until the galaxy understands that there is a better way." He hung up and returned to his newspaper. The headline read, "Former Empire holds first democratic elections. Millions vote for the first time." Smiled. Change was possible. It just required patience, power, and the wisdom to know when to use which. On the home world, Prince, now elected as the first Chancellor of the Federation, sat in his office. On his desk was a photo of the old emperor, his father, who had retired to a quiet life. Next to it was a small gift that had given him at the treaty signing. It was a newspaper from Earth dated 20 years earlier. The headline read, "Democracy spreads, peaceful transition complete." Looked at the newspaper and understood the message. Humanity had been through this transformation themselves. They knew how hard it was. They knew the struggles that lay ahead. But they also knew it was possible, and they were offering to walk beside the people through the difficult times ahead. In the end, humanity had not won through superior weapons or overwhelming force. They had won by offering something the galaxy had never seen before. A powerful species that chose to lift others up instead of holding them down. A civilization that measured success not by how much territory they controlled, but by how many species they helped to flourish. And across the galaxy, other empires and dictatorships were watching, some with fear, some with hope, but all of them were beginning to understand that a new era had begun. An era where strength was measured by wisdom and victory was measured by peace. 20 years later, former emperor and met at a small in Earth's capital. Was old now even by standards, but he looked peaceful, happy even. "I have a question that I never asked," said. "Why did you show us mercy?" Slid an old newspaper across the table. It was from Earth's nuclear age, centuries ago. The headline was about near extinction, about humanity standing on the edge of destroying itself. "Because," said quietly, "we have been where you were, young, arrogant, convinced of our own righteousness. We nearly died because of it. And someone, somewhere in our history, chose to give us a second chance, chose to teach rather than destroy. I am here because of that mercy. The least I can do is offer the same to others." Looked at the newspaper for a long time, then he looked at with something like gratitude. "Thank you," he said simply, "for teaching us, for not giving up on us." Smiled. "That is what guardians do. We protect, we teach, we hope, and we never stop believing that tomorrow can be better than today." They sat together in comfortable silence, two old diplomats who had changed the galaxy, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise over Earth. And somewhere in the distance, in offices and ships and stations across 1,000 worlds, other humans were doing the same work, teaching, protecting, hopping, building a galaxy where power served wisdom and wisdom served peace.